addition to that, this week is the first week that we'll be talking about the proposed site survey. So I'd ask Justin, please, to come forward. He's going to be our first speaker. So this is the site survey that covers our entire campus, and, well, I'll let Justin explain far more eloquently than I probably could.
Just tell me where you want me to be here.
There you go, sir.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
If I thought a year ago that we would be in a situation where the presentation would be to folks here and folks by video, that would have been something that would have been amazing to know a year ahead of time, but clearly none of us could know the situation that we're in now. With that said, I want to draw a little bit, and try to keep this as brief as I can, but draw a little bit from what Father said during his sermon this morning, which was that certain things are transitory, certain things are temporary, and on the other hand, certain things are eternal. And when I heard that message this morning, I was thinking about two things. The fact that our parish has existed in its present form for only a little bit more than 25 years here, but to all of us who've come to know and love this place and to worship here, it seems like in a way that it is timeless, and it's hard to imagine a time that this place of worship and this place of fellowship and this community did not exist. And the other aspect that sermon caused me to think of this morning was also that there are certain things that are transitory, no matter how permanent they may seem. And I believe, and I would like to think, that the situation that we find ourselves in this morning and this year is one of those transitory things that seems like it is eternal. The situation with the coronavirus and all of the consequences of that. Whether it be the fact that some of you are here, some of you are available through the means of technology, the fact that the parish was closed for a period earlier this year, the fact that there has been much confusion, uncertainty, not only in the secular political world in which we find ourselves too often, but also in the church community. But I think it's important to remember, in the midst of all that this too shall come to pass, and this too shall pass, I should say. And what is underneath that, our brotherhood and sisterhood in the Lord Jesus Christ, endures. And so we must look beyond that. We must look for the day when these things shall pass away, and we shall again be called to minister to our community and to continue the path that we've been on for the past 27 years. And so it's in that spirit that I come to you today as brothers and sisters to sort of introduce the topic of one way that we might start to look toward the future. And so this is not something new. It's something that's somewhat delayed, but it's not something new. And so what I want to do is tell you a little bit about how we, as your council, have gotten to the point where we're discussing what we're discussing today. And then I want to tell you a little bit about what this is. And I also want to tell you a little bit about what this is not, because it's important that no matter what we do, we are all on the same page in our understanding with one another. And so first of all, some of you who have been here a lot longer than I have may remember the fact that about a decade ago, we engaged in strategic planning when Father John was here with us. And as a result of that strategic plan, a lot of ministries, a lot of activities, a lot of events were put into place. It's a good and a healthy thing in the life of any parish community to look forward, not just by 1 year, but by 5 or by 10, to set goals and to try to achieve those goals if they are the Lord's will. We were looking to do a revised version of that strategic plan, and we were starting to lay some of the groundwork for that shortly before Father John became ill. And there were meetings and there were steps taken, and there was some dialogue at that time which was very beneficial. But unfortunately, Father John's illness cut some of that short, and we entered a period of transition. One thing that became apparent, however, I think, in a concrete way from all of that planning was, it started around the discussion of our parking lot. I think everybody here and everybody who's watching us on the screen, all of you who are participating today know that the parking lot is what we could call subpar. Half of it is paved, half of it is not. There is a private alley running down through the middle of it that sometimes we use for parking, sometimes we don't. And so that was a starting point of a very obvious need. Well, when the council started to look into this issue, we soon realized very quickly that it was not simply a matter of paving the rest of the parking lot. And besides any cost that was involved, our location here in the borough of State College led us to understand that there are a lot of regulations, there was a lot of approval that needed to be done. We would need to guarantee a certain amount of impervious surface, certain possibly amounts of islands in the parking spaces, and all of those sorts of things. That caused us to take a step back and realize if we're going to be spending that much money to study the parking and find the more optimal parking, if for approximately the same amount of money, in the same ballpark at least, we could have a study done of, is this current configuration the most optimal use of the parish land footprint at this point? Would it not be possibly better to throw all of that into the mix and have somebody analyze for us in terms of the regulations, what could we do on this property, what can't we do on this property, what could we do to maximize ministry space and parking space all at one time? And that might be a more judicious use of our funds than to spend money, analyze the parking, put parking in, and then be stuck with it if that doesn't suit our ministry needs. And I'm sure all of you know, and again, this is looking at the timeless part of this, getting back once this coronavirus plague is in the past, or under control at least. We all remember how full this parish gets at Pascha. And the fact that before the virus hit, we were on a trajectory, even on our normal Sunday worship, that we were having trouble figuring out where to put people. So, with that in mind, there was one other piece that came to us, I think, rather fortuitously at this time, and it may well be, it is a blessing, and it may be a blessing in this area as well. As many of you know, as a result of the coronavirus and the shutdown, parish, among like many other entities in the United States and in the Commonwealth, was eligible to apply for something called the Paycheck Protection Program. And we were fortunately the recipient of government grants for that, which as time went on became with fewer and fewer strings attached, which was very nice. We were able to use that for its intended purpose, to pay for the salaries of our clergy and our staff who were in need of compensation at that time. But where the blessing comes in is that even though we were closed down for such a long period of time, and even though we had so much uncertainty, the level of giving, the level of faithful offering and stewardship from the members of this parish and our friends was such that we were fairly close to perhaps the lower end of an average year anyway. So because of the giving that occurred during this time, we ended up with a surplus of funds. And so we haven't done anything with that surplus of funds at this point, although the council believes that this may be an opportunity to move forward into this comprehensive site survey without dipping into money that we don't have. In other words, there is a pool of money that is available to accomplish this. But although the council has discussed this, we know for a couple of reasons that it is not prudent to move forward with it without speaking with all of you and hearing from all of you and dialoguing with all of you. Something of this nature affects the whole parish, even though it's perhaps not as grand as some people may think it is, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it does affect all of us, and so we all need to know about it. We need to be on board with it if we're going to move forward. The other reason for that is it's going to involve discussions with people in the parish, you, as far as what you see as the needs of the parish, what you see as our ministry in this community, what you see as where we're going to be going. And if you're not on board with it, and you're not understanding of what it is, and we're not all on the same page, then the questions that might be asked and the answers that might be given may not be truly reflective of what we're trying to accomplish to expand the Lord's ministry in this community. And so it's important that we have these discussions and dialogues, and that we're all together in this before we take one step forward. So, with all of that said, what this is it's an opportunity to have a professional come in to the parish over a period of time, and I believe that individual representative of that entity will be here next week and to talk about how it all would work. But that person would interact with all of us, would meet with us, would discuss with us, would see what we do here, and would be in a position to look at and with their expertise at the regulations governing the borough, of all the requirements that would be needed to do anything. And they would put together a report for our consideration at the end of all this, indicating, well, if you want to do this, this is what you can do feasibly, technically. This is what your parish seems to believe is necessary, a facility for this or an ability for that, ministry and outreach. This is the location and so forth. Not to tell us what to do, but to tell us if you want to go this way, this is what's technically possible. If you want to go that way, that's what's technically possible. That's what this is. And so what it isn't is, although we may talk about a number of things, we may talk about expanding this building, we may talk about tearing down this building, we may talk about building a new building, we may talk about moving the buildings around on this land, we may talk about getting other land and putting buildings, we may talk about more mission buildings coming out of the parish. We may talk about all of those things, but this particular endeavor is not those things. This particular endeavor does not commit us to any one course of action at all. We may come out of it and we may decide that the way that things are is the way that they should be. But the point is, this gives us the opportunity, if we're thinking about growing in any direction, it will give us the tools to know whether it's feasible to do so, what the costs and the procedures might be that are involved. It may help us formulate a strategic plan in a sound way and with a good stewardship of the resources that we have. And so this opportunity is something that has come to us after several years of considering and hoping for it. It may seem like a strange time for it, but when you think about the fact that this is not committing us to anything right now, but rather in our faith and our hope, when the Lord removes the coronavirus scourge from our community, will we be prepared to move forward quickly into the next phase of our ministry, whatever that may be, and to continue being what we have been for the past 27 years and a light to this community. If I didn't believe this, I wouldn't be standing up here speaking about it in this way, but I do. I hope that all of you will join in this vision and prayerfully consider it. And again, we'll have more discussions about this before any decision is taken by anybody. But I wanted to communicate what it was and how excited that I am about it. And when the time is right for us to do it, and I sincerely hope that will be this year to begin, that we can begin preparing for where this parish will go and where we will be following the Lord's leading in the years to come as we return to normalcy in this community. And so for those of you who are here today, those of you who are here by virtue of the technology, my brothers and sisters in the Lord Jesus Christ, I'm honored to have the opportunity to present this to you, and I look forward to speaking with you and communicating with you as one family as we go forward into the future. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Justin. I think